Hello everyone and welcome to I Open TCGs, the channel where I sometimes open TCGs. Today we have an I Open PowerPoint presentation. Carbonite boxes for the new Star Wars Unlimited set, Secrets of Power, are $178 on release day. The Star Wars Unlimited ecosystem is broken. Now I get it. You're tired of these videos. I'm tired of making them. But what I'm not going to do is ignore it and hope it goes away. Now, I started this script 10 days ago, which was around 1.5 weeks before release, when Carbonites were $210. I was already extremely worried about that. But here I am finishing this script on release day, and Carbonite boxes are $178. Now, on TCG Player, of course, there are fees. So whenever a store lists something on TCG Player, they eat around 13% fees, something around there. So if a store sells a box for $178, they're making $155 before shipping costs, probably around $145 after. Now the distro costs to buy these Carbonite boxes are around $170 to $180. That means that stores are dumping boxes right now, and they are losing $20 to $30 a box for a quote-unquote premium level product on release day. And the crazy thing is that even 10 days ago, when I started writing this script, at $210, stores were already just breaking even. Now, I had a whole section predicting that it would be way worse on release, and it might even reach the 170s, but now you're just going to have to trust me. I hope that my track record of making videos like this, and many of those things coming true, would allow you to trust me on that. Now, the scary thing is that this has already happened with regular booster boxes since Twilight. It's been 4 sets in a row where on launch, the market price of a regular booster box effectively makes stores $0. Now, for Secrets, stores were already pre-selling regular boxes for $70 on Facebook 3 weeks ago. So even if you friends and family that store, you don't pay any fees, they're absorbing the shipping or something, they're already losing money on those boxes. They just want to get rid of them. Now, the small vestige of hope for these stores was that Carbonites would still make money. That was true for JTL and for LOF, but obviously now that is no longer the case. And what's crazy is that right now, at this very moment in time, every single major product released this year for Star Wars Unlimited is being sold at either break-even pricing or a loss, or in some cases, a very hefty loss. JTL carbs and regular boxes, a loss. LOF carbs, regular boxes, a loss. And now on release day already, SEC carbs and regular boxes, a loss. Now, at least for JTL and LOF, it took a few weeks to months for the Carbonites to drop down to break-even territory. But obviously, that's not true anymore. This is an absolute catastrophe for what's left of the Star Wars Unlimited ecosystem. Now, Mo the Monster and I recorded a 2.5-hour conversation about the terrible state of the Star Wars ecosystem, and we were already scared when we thought carbs were still going to launch at $300. Now, a lot of people don't want to watch a 2.5-hour video, so let me reiterate some of the most important parts here in this video. Why would stores sell Star Wars Unlimited anymore? Why would any store want to start or grow a Star Wars Unlimited community when the products barely make any money? If you buy a Star Wars Unlimited product right now, every single product released in the last year would still not be worth selling. So why would you start? Why would you choose Star Wars Unlimited over adding another Commander Knight, or One Piece, or Gundam, or Riftbound? And I know what you're already thinking, well, in my area, Star Wars is doing great. I've heard that so many times. In my area, Star Wars is the #1 played game. That's great. But in many areas, that is just not the case anymore. Now, if your area, you gain 20 players, but in other areas, 40 players are lost, is that a win for you? Is that a win for the game? Even a year later, I still get comments from my videos from players who just don't care about anything other than just playing the game in their tiny little bubble. And I ask those people, don't you want your awesome scene to exist in other areas? Don't you want the game to survive for as long as it can? Don't you want stores to be frothing at the mouth to support Star Wars Unlimited? And I'm tired of the narrative that the only reason Star Wars Unlimited isn't doing well is because stores don't put in the effort. Well, of course, yes, stores need to put in effort. But the partnership between TCGs and the stores is that the TCG makers do a good job at their job and make a desirable product that people want. People often blame the stores, but they don't seem to be putting much blame on the actual game makers. Now, once again, I'll reiterate what's become my motto. It's not all A, it's not all B, it's in the middle. There are definitely some bad stores out there, but overall, stores just want to make money. And the job of a TCG maker is to provide a product that can make money. Being a fun and amazing game is just a part of that. Now we have a new problem. Since Unlimited's launch, there have been no new games that pose significant competition. That has changed. Gundam is here, and Riftbound launched last week. Now, I've seen this idea on Facebook and Discord that Star Wars Unlimited is doing amazingly. Again, in their area, in their space, it's doing amazingly. Doesn't matter that a whole bunch of other people have said that it's dying in their area. In their area, it's doing great. And Gundam is dead, and Riftbound is whatever. Again, I want to mention that I started this script almost 2 weeks ago, and that was before Riftbound came out. I didn't know if it was going to be a hit. Had a whole section about how it probably would be. But right now, it's 1 week after Riftbound has come out, and it is a certified banger. Now, I don't mean this to be offensive, and people will take it as such. But Star Wars Unlimited players might be some of the most isolated TCG players of any game I've been a part of. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. There's a lot of new TCG players and Star Wars Unlimited fans. There's a lot of 10, 15-year-old lapsed Magic players. But generally, from what I've seen, there's a complete lack of knowledge on the current TCG landscape. And competition is one of those things that I think a lot of Star Wars fans just don't know much about. So let me try to help explain the level of competition that Gundam and Riftbound pose against Star Wars Unlimited right now. Now, we all have our anecdotes. Your area is great, my area is bad, whatever it is. So we need to look at the only place that has a general understanding of the entire US market, and that's TCG Player. Now, as of writing this portion of the script, it is November 6th, 1 day before release. Gundam Set 1 has sold 4,344 boxes, most at $160 to $240 each. Right now, it's going for around $165 a box. Gundam Set 2, which just came out on the 24th, 2 weeks ago, has already sold 1,310 boxes, mostly at $170 to $210 each. Right now, it's at $160 a box. Riftbound Set 1, which just released last weekend, has already sold 2,247 boxes. Half of that was sold before release when I started working on the script. It has doubled in 1 week. Most of the boxes have sold at $180 to $200 each. Right now, it's $230 a box. Secrets of Power, which is a week behind Riftbound, has sold 362 carbs at $200 to $220 each, and 656 regular boxes at $75 to $85 each. So together, that's around 1,000 boxes. Now, Secrets of Power is a week or two behind those games. So let's look at the last set. Legends of the Force has sold 931 Carbonite boxes and 2,110 regular boxes. JTL, before that, which was the most hyped set of the year because it had the first Carbonite editions, sold 1,605 carbs and 2,821 regular boxes. So that is the equivalent number of boxes being sold for Gundam Set 1 and combining JTL regulars and Carbonites. Now, if you didn't know, Gundam has had insane supply issues. They cannot print enough boxes to save their life. So if a store gets boxes, they pretty much are going to sell instantly as long as the prices are at market or slightly below. It would not be a stretch to say that if Gundam doubled the supply, they would still sell every last box at over $120. Riftbound is shaping up to be the exact same thing. Any boxes that come in are instantly sold unless the store has an insane markup for it. If it had printed double the supply again, every single one of those boxes would probably be gone. Now compare that to Star Wars. Star Wars has so much supply that it's a really good number for the demand, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that Gundam may not be big in your area, Riftbound might not be big in your area, but they are selling a lot of boxes. So if you think Star Wars is selling a lot, Gundam is selling around the same. And I think given enough time, Riftbound is going to sell even more than both. But I know someone's going to say, okay, that's apples to oranges. Fine. Let's look and compare Star Wars to Star Wars. Okay. JTL combined on TCG Player has sold 4,426 boxes, right? That's Carbonites plus regulars together, 4,426 boxes. LOF has sold 3,041 combined. That is a 30% drop from JTL to LOF. Right now, Secrets of Power is at 1,018 boxes sold. Now, even if that doubles, which I don't think it will, but even if it does double in 3 months' time, that is still a 30% drop from LOF. So that means from JTL to LOF, set 4 to set 5, that's a 30% drop. Set 5 to set 6, probably another 30% drop. That is very, very, very bad. Once again, the ecosystem is in trouble. We're not even talking about the makeup of Carbonites and what they can and can't do. This is just going by boxes sold, right? And what's even crazier is that you need to understand that Gundam Set 1 boxes, Riftbound boxes, and regular booster boxes for Star Wars all have the same MSRP of $120. Except Star Wars boxes are $60 on average. Riftbound boxes are $230. Now, granted, it's only been a week. Gundam Set 1, it's been out for three months now, still at $165. They all have the same MSRP, which means that it costs around the same amount for a store to buy those boxes. Once again, why would a store put in any effort into Star Wars Unlimited right now? Now, 9 months ago, I made a video saying cheap boxes don't equal more players. And a lot of people scoffed at it. We have proof now. We have seen the consequences of cheap, terrible boxes. And yet still, people won't admit it's a problem. And again, I am not saying it's good to have $200 boxes like Riftbound. I am not saying that. I've said since the beginning of this channel, making these videos, that I think the ideal place is plus or minus 10% of MSRP. Could be 10% less, could be 10% more. That's a great spot for a TCG. But when it comes to TCGs and hype and getting new people interested and playing the game and stores interested in setting up events, $200 boxes are way, way, way better than $50 boxes. So don't write that comment. I know someone will, but don't write that comment. I'm not saying that Gundam is better. I'm not saying that Riftbound is better. I'm just comparing the relative size of those games as competition to Star Wars Unlimited. Now let's look at singles. Because again, you might be thinking, oh, it's just scalpers and hoarders buying sealed Gundam, buying sealed Riftbound so that they can sit on it. Okay, let's look at playables. This will help us look at how many people are playing the game. Now in Gundam, the highest rarity is called an LR. You get 8 per box, and Gundam sets are actually very small compared to other games. So that means there's a lot of LRs out there. Now keep in mind, you need 4 copies of each card for Gundam compared to 3 for Star Wars. So I will be adjusting the numbers to be relative to each other. Everything will be in playsets. So let's take a look at 2 very popular LRs for decks. In Gundam, one of the LRs is Kshatriya. Now, on TCG Player, Kshatriya has sold 5,188 copies. Now, if I divide that number by 4, since you need 4 for a playset, that's 1,297 playsets. Another popular LR, Wing Gundam Zero, has sold 4,886 copies. Again, to get that relative, we divide by 4, you get 1,221 playsets. Now, let's look at a dog tier LR, a really bad one, called Buster Gundam. Buster Gundam has sold 3,878 copies. That's 969 playsets. Now let's look at Star Wars for popular legendaries. Let's look at JTL, which has been out double the amount that Gundam Set 1 has been out. And let's look at Planetary Bombardment. There are 4 different versions in the main set, so we need to add them all together, right? Regular, foils, hypers, hyperfoils, and together you get around 2,483 copies of Planetary Bombardment sold. Divide that by 3 because you need 3 per playset in Star Wars. That's around 827 playsets. For LOF, let's look at Anakin Skywalker, another very popular legendary. Now, there are 7 different versions of this, but we're not going to count the serialized ones. It's only going to add a couple sold anyways. So adding the 6 versions together, normal, foil, hyper, hyperspace foil, prestige tier 1, prestige tier 2, you get around 2,412 copies. Again, dividing that by 3, you get around 804 playsets. Now, as a note, the entry for hyperspace was broken on TCG Player, and so I overestimated it in my calculations. For Planetary Bombardment, foils and hypers were about the same sold. So for Anakin Skywalker, foils were around 300 sold. I said that there were 400 hypers sold to overestimate that. But again, you get around 800-ish playsets for Planetary Bombardment and Anakin Skywalker sold on TCG Player. So looking at playables, people playing the game, for Gundam Set 1, that's around 1,200 playsets versus around 800 playsets for Star Wars Unlimited. Now, that might not seem like a huge difference. It's 400 playsets difference. That's 33% more players buying playsets in Gundam than in Star Wars Unlimited. And what's crazy is that it took me 1.5 weeks, right, from creating the script to finishing it right now. And during that time, Gundam LRs continue to sell. Again, from Set 1. Over 150 to 200 copies of each sold in that time, whereas the Star Wars Unlimited singles barely moved at all. Now, let's look at Riftbound. Riftbound has only been out for less than a week. One of the big playables is a card called Thousand-Tailed Watcher. And it's not even the highest rarity card in Riftbound, which is an epic. Thousand-Tailed Watcher is a rare, but Riftbound is a much, much bigger set. Also keep in mind that in Riftbound, there's only one version of a rare. It only comes in foil, whereas sometimes there are 7 versions of a legendary in Star Wars. Now, once again, the reason I'm comparing this is to show you that the relative sizes of the game. Not which game is better, not which game company's doing this or that. I'm just showing you the competition and the downward trend of Star Wars. Thousand-Tailed Watcher has sold 1,340 copies, which is around 447 playsets, and it's been out for 1 week with an insane supply block blocking it. The price of a box is almost 4 times as much as a regular box of Star Wars Unlimited, and it's already at 447 playsets compared to around the 800 playsets for the Star Wars games. Don't discount the popularity of these 2 games right now. This competition is very, very scary for the future of Star Wars Unlimited. Now, you have a game that makes stores almost 0 money and has so for over a year. Some games have 1 bad set and then they recover. Star Wars has had bad set after bad set after bad set from a pricing perspective, not a playable perspective, but from a pricing perspective, over and over and over again. You now have 2 big new games coming up. And even with huge supply problems for both, they still sell more or equal to Star Wars Unlimited despite almost double, triple the price of the box. But at least Asmodee is staying strong, right? At least FFG is staying strong. Well, as discussed in my conversation with Mo, Asmodee was just dumping Star Wars Unlimited boxes on Amazon for Prime Day. They were cutting the market, which was already low, with an almost infinite supply of every single set. And then that triggered a lot of other stores to dump their boxes. And so the boxes got lower again. Now, one thing that my store told me the other day was that now Asmodee is offering stores an insane discount on regular booster boxes from set 1 to set 5. So now they're dumping to regular stores as well. Oh, and those winter gift boxes? Now, while they might be the best version of this, the only reason those boxes exist is to dump packs. That's why these gift boxes exist. One Piece does this, Magic does this, a bunch of other games do this to get rid of stock of more undesirable sets. They lump them together, put a promo in. Now, I'm not opposed to them doing this. I think this is the best way to dump boxes. But the crazy thing is that nobody seems to clock that or care. So if you don't think it is dumping packs, why else would there be Twilight in them? Twilight is being rotated next set. It makes no sense for Twilight to be in those gift boxes, and yet there they are because they need to dump them. Asmodee is dumping everything they can now. Now, I've said this in my last product review, but Carbonites have failed. The entire purpose of Carbonites, everything that it was supposed to do, it has failed at every single metrics. And remember, they did not have to make Carbonites. They didn't have to do it so quickly either. They didn't have to create them the way that they did. But guess what? Asmodee wanted to make 3 times the money printing less cards without setting a good foundation first. And the popularity of the game has paid the price. Now, I've suggested so many things in so many of my videos. I'm finally seeing some people start to come around on some of those suggestions, like they thought of it first. Okay, this is probably going to be the most narcissistic part of the video. But I just want to say, I called so many things, whether they were in a video or on a stream, and it saddens me a little that I really don't get much credit for trying to warn people about this years ago. Oh, maybe you shouldn't have 4 versions of a card to start out your card game. Maybe showcases should be better. Maybe prestiges should be better. Maybe you shouldn't have so many prestiges. Maybe there should be more variants that are harder to get. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe this. But what's the big copium now? The big copium is they heard the feedback. And it's all going to happen in set 7. Don't worry. They got to wait a whole year. But they've heard it. And set 7 is going to change everything. All eyes have been on set 7 since the failure of LOF Carbonites. Set 7 will be the savior. Right? When I started writing this script, I really didn't think I was going to end it this way. But I'm telling you all right now, it is too late. Even if set 7 takes all of my suggestions, it is the best Star Wars product that's ever been made. It's too late. A year's worth of failures is just too much to make up for right now, where there is significant competition and all the other major TCGs have been pumping. Again, Star Wars has failed in an era where every other card game is pumping to astronomical degrees. Bad degrees. Again, I'm not saying that's good, but I'm saying bad degrees. In an era where most things are going up, Star Wars manages to go down. And the thing is I don't even think it's a year's worth of failures, because I would argue that their failure already started in year 1 when it took them 6 months to reprint set 1. Then they started playing supply games for set 2. And then, of course, the catastrophic failure that we all know as Twilight. But even ignoring all of that, competition is now here. Demand is dropping 30% every set. Before Star Wars Unlimited released, there were many content creators familiar with FFG that knew them as a company that historically makes bad decisions despite making great games. I knew them as such. I remember the very first day I was selling Spark of Rebellion, and people were coming in and asking about the company, and I was like, do not trust FFG. They have hurt so many people. And 2 years later, they have still not proven us wrong. Now, I'm not saying Star Wars Unlimited is over right now. It could potentially trickle slowly towards death for many, many years to come. But you have to consider this. Asmodee is a publicly traded company with a massive amount of debt. They have an expensive license with Disney that they have to pay. Their other major TCG, Altered, has already crashed and is burning as we speak. Disney could make an order of magnitude more money licensing Star Wars to WotC right now and making a Magic card set. I don't think FFG will have this license for long. I will officially say on the record, so that other people can maybe laugh at me in the future, that I think conservatively, the last year for Star Wars Unlimited will be in 2027. And that will make the game 4 years, which is honestly not shabby. Most games don't last 5 years. 3 to 5 years is usually where it is. They made it to 4. But my real hot take is that next year, 2026, will be the last year. Now, feel free to disagree. Feel free to put all your hopes in a company that took the greedy approach every single time it could, from prematurely launching Carbonites so that they can make way more money in this short term, to the company that's literally fire selling its own product right now so they aren't holding the bag, the company that can't design a functional product despite having so many influences that they could be copying. And worst of all, they still can't figure out demand versus supply 6 months later. And it's a shame. Whether you care at all to believe me, I like this game. The only reason I even make these videos is because I want it to succeed. There's so much potential in a game like Star Wars Unlimited, but constant bad decisions and general community blasé has led us to this point. I don't expect this video to do well. I expect many people are tired of this. They just want to hear good shit. But I do hope that one day people can remember me as the guy who tried to warn you. And with that, I think it's time to move on to complaining about another company. A company that has fans that will actually blame the company instead of being white knights defending every mishap and mistake. Riot Games, a product review is coming for you next. So with that, this may be my last Star Wars Unlimited video. It may not be. For those of you that have watched my videos for years, I appreciate your support. Again, I want to reiterate that I hope Set 7 is the best fucking set of all time. If it is, I'm going to buy some and I'm going to open it and it's going to be great. And I want everybody to be like, you're wrong. I hope that, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So until Set 7, I guess, or maybe stick around for some Riftbound stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.